Hello, I'd like to tell you a story. It's a very old story that goes back almost to the very beginnings of time itself, because just a few generations after God had created the world and everything in it, he looked down and this is what he saw. I guess we could think of lots of different words to describe what he saw, the types of people. Maybe we'd say they looked like they were crazy people, or mad people, or bad people, or cruel people, or selfish people. And what God saw was all of those things. And when he saw that, he thought to himself, do you know, it's not how I wanted it to be. I wanted everybody to be really kind, to be friendly, to care for each other, to share with each other. And so God thought to himself, you know, if that's how people are going to be, then I'm going to have to punish them. And that's right, isn't it? If you do things wrong, we get punished. It's one of the ways that we learn how to not do things wrong. But as God was thinking about how he was going to punish all the people for the wrong things that they were doing, saying and thinking, he remembered Noah. Now Noah was a really nice guy. Noah always cared for people and always helped people and always shared with people when he could do. He was always encouraging to people, and just a few moments spent with Noah, then your whole world seemed just a little bit brighter. And Noah had 3 sons called Shem, Ham and Japheth, and they were the same as Noah. They were really nice and kind and caring as well. And so God said to Noah, he said, Noah, I'm going to punish all the people for all the wrong things that they've been doing and saying and thinking. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to send loads of rain. And Noah said, oh, rain. Okay, God. What's rain though? Because you see, until this point, it had never rained before. So God explained what rain was. And he said, well, you know when you go out in the morning and on the grass, sometimes there's little drops of water. Well, that's dew. And rain's a little bit like the dew, just that the drops are bigger and they fall down from the sky. Said Noah. And then God said, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to send loads of rain until there's a huge big flood. Flood? Said Noah. What's a flood then, God? And so God explained what a flood was, because I guess if you've never had rain, then you've never had a flood before. And then God said, I want you, Noah, to build a boat, a great big boat. And Noah said, boat? Okay. What's a boat then, God? And so God explained what a boat was and how to build it and how big to build it and what to make it from. And Noah and his 3 sons got all the materials together and they began to build the boat in his back garden. And God also said to him, Noah, when you've done the boat, you need to get 2 of every kind of animal that walks on the earth, 2 of every kind of insect that crawls on the earth, 2 of every kind of bird that flies over the earth, and bring them and put them inside the boat. And make sure you get it right, by the way. You need 1 of each kind, 1 male and 1 female, otherwise it doesn't really work in the long term. You also need to get food for all the animals. Oh, and here's a list of some very special animals, and I want you to bring 7 of those and bring them inside the boat. So Noah, as I say, began to build the boat. But when his neighbours saw him building the boat in his back garden, they all came out and they kind of leant on the fence and said, hey Noah, that's an awfully big kennel you're making. You're thinking of getting an awfully big dog. So Noah explained that God was really unhappy with all the wrong things that they were doing, saying and thinking, that he was going to punish them, and what he was going to do, he was going to send enough rain that would be a flood and that everybody would die, but that the boat was God's rescue plan, and that anybody that wanted to, they could come and they could say sorry for the wrong things they were doing, saying and thinking, stop doing them, and then they too could come inside the boat. Do you think they listened to Noah? No, they didn't. They just carried on doing all those wrong things. In fact, every day they would come out and they would take the mickey out of him, and they would laugh and they would tease him and make jokes, and they would say things like, hey Noah, that's an awfully big kennel. That's so big you could get a dinosaur in there. Don't you know dinosaurs are extinct? Do you think Noah stopped building the boat simply because they came and teased him? Well, no, he didn't, fortunately. He carried on building that boat. But you know, sometimes we're in a situation a little bit like Noah. Not that we're building a boat, obviously, but there are times, aren't there, when we know the right thing that we should do, we know the wrong thing that we shouldn't do, and because we're scared that people will come and tease us and laugh at us, that we end up doing the wrong thing instead of the right thing. Well, fortunately Noah carried on doing the right thing, and he built the boat, and eventually, when it was finished, he got the animals and he loaded all the animals up and all the creepy crawly things and all the birds, all the food, and his family and their wives and his wife went inside the ark, and God shut the door. And it began to rain. And rain, and rain, and rain, and rain, and rain, until eventually the whole of the earth was covered in a flood. And all the walky things all drowned. All the creepy crawly things all drowned. All the flying things all drowned. The only things left alive were the animals inside the ark, Noah and his family. And I guess maybe the swimmy things and floaty things too. But you know, Noah was in that ark for around about 12 months. Imagine that. Imagine being in there for about a year with all those animals. Well, I guess you wouldn't get bored, would you, with all those animals to look after? But imagine looking after all those animals. I mean, imagine having to clean up after the elephants. And when you've done the elephants, you've got to go next door and there's the rhinoceroses. And then when you've done them, you go next door and there's the hippopotamuses. And then when you've done that, you go next door and it's the giraffes. And imagine what it would be like if even just for one day you forgot. It would be really not very nice. Well, after a while, God remembered Noah inside the ark. And he sent a wind to blow, and as the wind began to blow, the flood waters began to go down. And eventually, the ark came to rest on the side of a mountain. And when it was resting on the side of the mountain, Noah began to think, and he thought, well, I wonder how I know when it's time to open the doors, when it's safe to let all the animals out. And so he decided that what he would do, he would send out one of the birds to have a little fly around to see what was happening. So he took a raven and he opened the window, and the raven went out and it flew backwards and forwards and backwards and forwards. And when it got fed up with flying backwards and forwards, it flew forwards and backwards. But it couldn't find anywhere to rest, so it came back in through the window. Noah waited for a bit longer, and then he sent out another bird. This time he sent out a dove, and the dove went out and it flew backwards and forwards and backwards and forwards. And guess what it did when it got fed up with flying backwards and forwards? Yeah, it flew forwards and backwards too. But again, it couldn't find anywhere to rest, so it came back into the ark through the window. Noah waited for about another week, and he sent the dove out again. And this time the dove went out and it flew backwards and forwards and backwards and forwards and forwards and backwards. But this time, when it came back in the window, in its beak, it had got a little tiny leaf and twig from an olive tree. So Noah knew that down in the valleys, the water must have gone down far enough that the tops of the trees were beginning to stick up through the top of the water. Noah waited for another week, and he sent the dove out again, and this time the dove went out and it flew away and didn't come back. So Noah knew that it must be safe. And so he opened up the doors to the ark, and all the walky things went walking and running and frolicking to find new places to walk and run and frolic, and all the creepy crawly things went creeping and crawling away to find new places to creep and crawl, and all the flying things flew away to find new places to fly. And Noah and his family had a celebration, had a party to celebrate the fact that God had kept them safe and rescued them in the flood. At the end of the party, God spoke to Noah and he said, you know, Noah, I really hated having to do that. I mean, it was right, I had to punish the people, but you know, I just felt really sad about having to do that. And you know, I'm going to promise you that I'm never ever going to send a flood to go across the whole of the earth so that everybody drowns ever again. And as a sign, so that you remember my promise every time you see it, I'm going to put in the sky a rainbow. And so every time we see a rainbow, we can remember that's God's promise. He's never going to send a flood to cover the whole of the earth again. You know, the Bible's full of promises. My favourite one is probably this one. It's the promise of heaven. And the Bible tells us a little bit about heaven. It says in heaven there's going to be no pain, no illness, no sadness, no tears. It's just going to be full of laughter and joy and peace. Fantastic place that everybody would want to go to. And all over the world, boys and girls are finding out how they can live in heaven with God when they die. Because you see, God's still got a rescue plan for us even today. It's not a flood because God's promised never to send a flood. But God's rescue plan for us, for the wrong things that we do, say and think, is Jesus. Because when Jesus died on that cross, he was being punished. Not because he'd done anything wrong, but he was being punished for all the wrong things that you do and that I do. And because he was punished in our place, we don't have to be. If we want to, we can come to God in our prayers and say that we're sorry for those wrong things we do, say and think. And he promises that he will forgive us. He promises that we can be his friends and promises that we shall live with him in heaven when we die. Because we know, don't we? Jesus didn't stay dead, but 3 days later he came back to life. And he went back to be with God in heaven 6 weeks after that. And it's because he's alive and in heaven that we can come to him in our prayers and say that we're sorry for the wrong things that we've done, said and think, and be his friends. So thank you for listening.